So I know interviews can be a source of stress and anxiety and burdensome for some of you, but it really should be a celebratory moment because what does it really mean? It means that you are qualified.
We are born to win. Come and learn the basics with Law School Gems.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Law School Gems with Bria. My name is Bria Riley, and today we are going to be getting into interviewing, right? Interviewing for those law school internships and jobs in which I know you are going to crush and get. And today we're going to be talking about what is the purpose of an interview for a job, and then also some of the gems that you will need in order to prepare for that interview. A little bit about me: I am Director Corporate Counsel for a publicly traded company, serving as corporate counsel for their marketing, advertising, intellectual property, and regulatory IP group here in Dallas, Texas. And then also, before we dive in, I just wanted to affirm you guys, please be patient with yourself. Please show yourself kindness. Please show others kindness. In a world where you could be anything else, please be kind and choose kindness today, and choose patience and choose grace. You know, the same grace and patience that you would want someone to show you. Show that to someone else. Don't judge people. Don't shame people. And don't judge and shame yourself. Don't carry that burden. Don't carry that stress or weight or anxiety. So without further ado, let's dive right on in. So I know interviews can be a source of stress and anxiety and burdensome for some of you, but it really should be a celebratory moment because what does it really mean? It means that you are qualified. If you've made it past the candidacy application materials portion of any type of candidacy application, then that means that the recruiter or the human resources manager or the hiring partner thinks that you are qualified to do the job. So you got to get out of your head. Right now is the time to get out of your head and to know that at least on paper, you can do what it is that they are interviewing for you to do. Now they just want to see if they like you, and they want you to know if you're going to like them and if this is going to be a good fit before anyone wastes their time extending offers and going into an experience that may not be fruitful for both of you guys. So that is what the interview is primarily for. And if you got this far, I'm cheering for you because you deserve it, and you need to know that you've earned it and that you deserve to be there. So eliminate imposter syndrome, get that out of your mind, and just focus on running your best race, being only in competition for yourself. And we're going to get into some things you can do to prepare and get yourself ready for that interview because you got this. So the interview is a time for you to introduce yourself and your personality. You should hone in on shared interests and passions with the person with whom you are interviewing. And also, when answering interview questions, you want to be sure to include that STAR example. So remember, STAR stands for S is situation, T is task or responsibility, A is the action steps you took in order to achieve that action or responsibility, and then R was the result. What was the positive driven outcome that came from that example that you were expounding upon in your interview answer? So the same tips and tricks that we use in order to expound on our resume or in your personal statement or your cover letter, you're going to do the same thing once you get into the actual interview room as well. You also want to be sure that you're sharing professionally appropriate stories or experiences or strengths that you think is going to set you apart from your competition. Things that show you are uniquely qualified for this role, and that's going to make you the type of candidate that that person and whomever's team you're going to be on is going to want to work with. They're going to want to spend long hours with you. They're going to want to get to know you and vice versa. And they think you're someone that is trainable, that is knowledgeable, that even if you don't know everything, that you are someone who can learn quickly and you're agile and you can accept a challenge. You want to showcase all of that in an interview. And these are the things that the interviewer cannot glean from your resume alone, right? You want to be sure that you are setting yourself apart, but you can't lie. So you also don't want to tell untruths or falsehoods, right? You want to be truthful about your experiences and your background, but you also want to, again, really talk your stuff and really brag on yourself. This is the moment. Now is the time to be confident in your abilities and your skill sets and to really brag on yourself in a way that shows humility, but also in a way that shows competency. If you get confronted with a question that you feel unprepared to answer, right? Take a step back, take a deep breath, and really think. You got to pause and then react. If you just blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind, you may not answer that question in the best way that you want it to, and that's going to be a regret that you have later. So we want to leave all regrets alone. We want to leave everything out there on the stage when we are performing, including in an interview room, even though it's not a performance, right? But you're putting your best foot forward, right? And you are presenting yourself, and you want to make sure you leave with no stones unturned, and that you are answering the question effectively and appropriately, even if it takes you a little time to gather your responses. It's okay. It's okay to take a breather and to take a pause, and it may seem like forever in your mind, but it's really not, and it's going to help you gather your thoughts. And if you don't understand a question, it's also okay to say, hey, I don't know what you mean, or can you clarify what you mean by this? Or I think what I hear you saying is this, is that correct? It's okay to ask that to your interviewer before you blurt out a question. And it's also okay to say, you know what? I don't quite have the experience that what I think you're trying to address by your question, but this is what I do have. This is what I have done. You got to find ways to pivot and to show that you are able to pivot. You are able to improvise. You are able to think on a dime, and you are able to analyze a situation and come up with another alternative solution. Also, be sure to share your elevator speech, right? Because it's not safe to assume that your interviewer may have read your resume. People get busy, life gets ahead of us, and sometimes they just don't know. So you have to be able to speak to your skill sets, your strong suits, what your resume says, and you have to be able to recall information on a dime, especially if they ask you about a particular experience. Which brings me to my next point. Know your resume. Don't put something on your resume you don't know or that you're not going to remember, because if it gets brought up in the interview and you can't speak to it, it's not going to make you look good, and it could come off as if you are telling a falsehood, and maybe you don't actually have that experience for which they thought you were qualified for. So you got to know your resume like the back of your hand before you go into an interviewing situation. Interviewers want to know if you're going to be a good culture fit for their organization. They want to know the type of attitude you're going to have as an employee. Are you someone who complains a lot, or are you someone who has a can-do attitude with an achiever mindset? Some tips that interviewers may be looking for when interviewing you include, are you a self-starter, right? Do you take initiative? Are you someone who takes accountability and owns your mistakes and then works through how to prevent them from happening the next time, as opposed to passing blame on someone else? Are you someone committed or interested in the role and the people with whom you'll be working with, or are you there for an ulterior motive? Because interviewers can usually see right through that as well. Is there a value alignment between you and the employer? Sometimes if it comes down between you and another candidate and you guys have the exact same candidacy materials, the company likes you, the interviewers all like you, is there a value alignment? Are you going to be aligned with the company's values and their goals and their objectives and the future of their company and where they're going? And the same thing if it's in a public sector entity as well, right? So is there a value alignment? Are you well researched? And then finally, are you a good teammate? And can you also act individually as well and be a decisive thinker and a decision maker, and someone who can also work independently or as a team? These are all considerations that an interviewer will likely be taking into account as they are critiquing you or judging you or trying to get to know you in an interview landscape. And you all, that is all the information that I have for you today with respect to interviewing once you get that dream interview for your dream job or internship, right? And next time we'll talk about preparing for that interview. But I'm glad that I was able to drop those gems off on you today. Please feel free to like and share this video with a potential law student, someone who's in their first semester of law school, or someone who is considering law school, or maybe they're further along and they just need some gems along the way. And also subscribe to this channel so you get notifications when I drop new gems and you don't miss those. And I know you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to stay here and watch this video all the way to the end. And that really helps me grow this channel. So I really appreciate that. I thank you. And until next time, when we talk about preparing for interviews, I will see you guys again. Bye, y'all.